Hello and welcome to interest.co.nz. I'm Janae Tibshirani here with one of our double shot interviews. Today I'm joined by Auckland Council's Building Control Manager, Ian McCormick. Welcome, Ian.
Good morning.
Ian is responsible for the Council's building consents, which is undoubtedly a tough job with the property market only to keep getting hotter. Ian, I guess today I really wanted to talk to you about some of the pressures, I guess, which the Council is dealing with as so many more houses are getting built and more will be built over the next few years.
Yeah, well, it's an exciting time. You know, it's a great opportunity to help Auckland grow. And you know, I think it's interesting just reflecting on how much growth we're actually talking about at the moment. So just picture this: if you're trying to drive down to Taupo, and imagine trying to how long it takes to get through Hamilton City. Takes quite a long time. There's an awful lot of buildings and infrastructure in Hamilton City. So effectively, to deliver on Auckland's growth needs, we're actually building a Hamilton City every 4 or 5 years in Auckland.
Wow!
So all of the buildings, all of those roads, all that infrastructure, being built in Auckland every 4 or 5 years. So that's the sort of scale of development we're talking about. It's really significant.
All right. Ian, of potential concern is some talk that we've been hearing about the standard to which a lot of these houses are being built. I mean, builders are under pressure. You know, there might be a shortage in skilled construction workers, and this might be affecting the quality of houses being built. What are you noticing?
Look, we're finding that over the last year and a half, the number of inspections that we deliver that fail has been increasing. Now, we deliver at the moment about 132,000 building inspections a year, 132,000 building inspections. So that's an awful lot. Now, we're finding at the moment, last month, we had a failure rate of 29%. Wow. So just imagine 29%. It's really significant, and it fluctuates from area to area, week to week. There was one time for 1 week where the failure rate was just under 40%. Now that's a real problem. So you know, these are inspections that are failing due to a building code non-compliance, and most of those non-compliances will result in the building not performing the way it needs to.
And how does that figure compare to previous years?
It's going up.
Yeah. Right. Okay, and what are some of the reasons you're putting this down to?
Well, look, there's a number of different reasons. I guess to understand really why it's happening, one needs to understand how and I'll talk about the residential market in particular, because you know this is the area that we're finding the greatest issues in. We need to understand how it operates. So a residential building, a new, say, 3-bedroom residential home is a collaboration. It's a collaboration of a whole lot of people. It's the imagination and desire of the owner. It's the skills of the designer to be able to create that dream for the owner. It's the principal builder who gets engaged by the owner, and then a number of different subtrades that get brought in. So the builder doesn't do all the building. Some people might think that. Normally he's engaging a whole lot of subtrades to come in and deliver pieces of that work. One of the things we're finding is the coordination of all that different work. The ensuring that all of the components coming together correctly, and with all those components of quality, that's the problem. So it's a supervisory issue. That's the main issue that we're seeing. Okay,
and is that, I mean, due to what we call them, the sort of project manager being
it's basically a number of things. So we've got some really competent folk. So if we think about, from my perspective, think about what results in a performing building structure. It involves 3 things. So first of all, the competency of the builder and other people who are involved. It relates to the complexity of the work that's being done, and the last thing, the system they're working in. And the last thing is often forgotten, but it's really important. So we find that even the most competent builder, someone who normally are building inspectors who get to know all of these people, hardly ever have any issues with, almost always passes all their inspections. Suddenly, for no apparent reason that our building inspectors can understand, will suddenly have some really significant failures associated with the building inspection. So significant levels of non-compliance suddenly appear. Normally what's happened is that really good builder has ended up being stretched. He's running too many jobs at the same time. He ends up not being able to get one of the sub-trades he normally uses, and ends up having to use someone else who is not as good, and it's probably the reason they're more available, not as experienced, and he fails to actually recognise that he needs to put more supervision on that work to make sure it's done properly.
Right.
And so outside our view, we end up with someone who we think we can normally rely on suddenly actually having some quite significant issues. So it's a supervisory issue. We've got some of the most competent builders and designers in the world working in New Zealand, some absolutely excellent folk who actually seldom have any problems with our inspections at all, but we've got an awful lot of other folk who are actually struggling to manage that collaboration of all these different people working on that job.
Right. And how much pressure is coming from the developers? I mean, there are so many opportunities to make money in Auckland at the moment, and you know, developers might be pushing to get more built quicker, cheaper. Are they putting much pressure on?
I think the best way of looking at this is that Auckland needs to grow. People want to live here, which is great. I mean, who wouldn't? That ends up meaning that there's a really strong market for homes for people to live in, and the developers, fortunately, are actually in a position to be able to help build those homes and those developments that people need. That's where the pressure's coming from. So the developers are there to certainly to take advantage of that. But you know, the way I look at it, you know, those developers, we absolutely need them. You know, if we want homes for our kids, we need those developers to actually build them. So they're not creating the pressure. The pressure is actually part of the community, and I suppose people's desire to live in Auckland. That's where that's coming from.
All right, and pressure, no doubt, on the council from this as well. It must be quite tiresome and costly, I suppose, going back and rechecking these places consecutively.
Well, look, it's everybody's under pressure in the design and construction industry. You know, we're under no more pressure than anybody else, as everybody's feeling it. I suppose this lack of supervision and I guess, you know, having folk who, you know, aren't being supervised, getting the right level of support, working in the industry is actually causing problems for everybody. So it's resulting in rework, and that rework's being picked up by often by the people supervising the job. It's causing rework that's picked up through a building inspection, and all of that is actually reducing the productivity of the sector. You know, there's some figures out there which central government would often produce, which are really scary, and they would indicate that, or actually they don't indicate, they tell us that the construction industry is, I think, the least performing industry out of all the industries that exist in the country. The least
productivity-wise?
Yeah, productivity-wise. In fact, over the last 10 years has actually declined in productivity. So it's less productive now than it was 10 years ago. I mean, you think about every other industry, you know, there's technology that's come in, there's new learnings, new ways of organising people and collaborating to create products, and it's more efficient and it's more productive than ever. Yeah. Not the case in the construction industry.
Right.
Really quite concerning. And part of it is, personally, in my view, it's a lack of quality assurance being embraced by the industry. Now, you look at almost every other industry, quality is just embedded. It's part of the way they do things around here, part of the culture, part of the DNA now. But when you look at the construction industry, sadly not the case. I mean, one of the good examples that I sort of reflect on sometimes is comments like, oh, it's a checkboard Charlie, building inspector's a checkboard Charlie. Now, that's the sort of thing that probably people used to call quality folk back in the 70s before they realised they had to compete with, you know, the Japanese in the car industry. You know, we're really sort of, and I think that type of perception is really problematic. Quality should be something that everybody embeds. It should be the part of the way that they do things, and just embedded deeply in the way they do everything. Unfortunately, in many parts of the construction industry, not the case.
What about the building code, Ian? Is that not robust enough to sort of instill that type of attitude within the industry?
So the building code is sort of minimum standards. The minimum standard that's required in a whole lot of different areas that we know need to be regulated to ensure that we end up with a performing building, and it's safe to live in, work in, have recreation in. That's really not the issue at all. The issue is really around ensuring that there's an embedded quality system in place. So if we look at the commercial industry, certainly in the more complex stuff, they've got a construction management system, which is something which the engineers get involved in, but is really, really robust and ensures that those complex commercial buildings have a really strongly embedded quality culture in there. I guess a lot of my comments are really directed to the residential industry, where, to be honest, very hard to actually find that embedded system. Some have it, but it would be fair to say that most don't.
What can the government do to help?
Well, it's actually what everybody can do to help. So I think it's very easy to just end up thinking the government is going to be able to come in here and regulate and create some more legislation or something. And really, I don't know about you, but I don't think I need central government to come and tell me what to do when it's so friggin' obvious. I don't think I need to. I think the answer is really, I think the industry to recognise that we need to work better together. And we're certainly doing that a lot better than we have previously. We're the professional affiliations, registered master builders, certified builders, NZIA, and a lot of those other organisations are doing a lot of work, IPANS, a lot of work to support their members to be able to be the most productive and efficient as possible. We're working closely with them to actually try and address some of these things. So at the moment, we're working with certified builders, registered master builders, and brands and NB to come up with some useful quality assurance tools that will be easy and make it easy for builders who, let's face it, are really busy. They've got a tough job. Make it easy for them to be able to supervise, creating these buildings. Now, buildings, aren't simple prescriptive things. Like, they're extremely complex these days. The old days where you might have one cladding system in a building, and that was it, and it was very prescriptive in terms of the way things went together, and everyone's trained how to do it. Really long-serving apprenticeship. Has gone. Now you look at how complex buildings are. They've got multiple cladding systems. People need to understand how all those systems come together. They need to understand how those junctions work. How do you deal with the interface between those different systems? Incredibly complex. And our builders now, I'd suggest they've got the skill sets that good builders have. I mean, they're right up there with any other profession. And I don't think people often give credit to just how skilled and competent builders are these days.
Sure.
Successful builders have to be really good.
Yeah. All right, Ian. Well, thank you for your time. I think you've enlightened us a lot, and what you're saying about changing the culture within the industry, I think, is a really powerful point. So thank you for that. I'm Janae Tibshirani, joined by Ian McCormick here at interest.co.nz.